acceso e di pensiero, sempre un amabile leggiadro viso, in bianco in riso e menzognero. La donna è mobile, qual piuma elemento, muta la certo e di pensier. E di pensier.
Hey everyone, Mackenzie Lambert here, host from Mack the Movies, joined here by my good friend as always, John Cleveland.
Hi everybody.
This is going to be another installment of the Three Tenors. For this installment, we're going to be looking at Mr. Hill's list for top 10 monsters. So we're going to go ahead and first go through Mr. Hill's list, and then followed by John's list, and then we'll close out with my list. Let's go ahead and see what Mr. Hill has for his top 10 monsters. Number 10, the Kraken from Clash of the Titans.
One of the best, I would say, kaiju, I guess? Or at least one of the earliest?
Yeah. And it's Ray Harryhausen,
so you can't go wrong.
Oh, no.
No.
All right, number 9, the Graboids from Tremors, which it's just such a wonderful movie, and
so is.
It's a nice twist on like the 50s monster movie.
Yes, yes, heavily inspired by films like Them and other radioactive beasts.
Number 8, the Gremlins, which they're too iconic not to have on a list, I would say.
Yeah, I mean they're not on mine. I will say that, but they definitely are great monsters. Their life cycle's very interesting. We learn about how that works, even if it doesn't quite make a lot of sense, which is poked fun at in the second movie. But yeah, no, they're definitely iconic monsters.
Yeah. Number 7, the Crawling Eye from the Trollenberg Terror. I haven't seen this one.
Yeah, so it's not good. I think it was covered by Mystery Science Theater. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, I remember seeing the Crawling Eye.
Yeah. I will say this. It is. I remember watching it as an episode of Mystery Science Theater and thinking, you know what? A little bit more money and this could have been a good film. It is an interesting film. It's obviously they're aliens. Spoilers. So that explains everything, and we don't need to talk about it anymore, kind of issues. They're also telekinetic just to one person, and that's plot relevant. So again, it's that creeping thing about the 1950s not caring so much about detail work. But they're interesting, and they're very iconic looking. They're giant crawling eyes with tendrils. I mean, I can think of a good line to write as a monster, and that is a good start, you know? So...
All right, number 6, Clover, a.k.a. LSA from Cloverfield.
Yes, another more modern kaiju. Very interesting and a new take on it. That movie entirely for me was the viral marketing. I know a lot of people don't like it because of the shaky cam aspect.
Yeah.
So I didn't care so much about that. It's not really something that bothers me that much. For me, I think this movie was made by its marketing, which is sad because it means it will never... I can't explain that to others. Like, you had to kind of live it. It's not like the Blair Witch Project.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
You just had to understand what was going on to make it work. But a very interesting and very unorthodox monster.
Yeah. All right, number 5, the Giant Trolls from probably my favorite found footage film, Troll Hunter.
It is a very good found footage. I love showing it to people because a lot of people still haven't seen it. And they're like, oh my god, this is good. Yeah. I'm like, yeah, it really is. It never takes itself too seriously. It has a very good mythos. Great special effects for its time. Well, for its budget really. Too. Yeah. But no, good, solid film.
All right, number 4, Kong from King Kong.
No argument to be had. It's he's so iconic. I don't remember if he's on my list or not because it was just like I don't need to state this.
Yeah, he's kind of like one of those that go without saying.
Yeah, you don't need to talk about this.
Yeah.
He's like there are several people I know who consider King Kong the greatest film ever made.
And then you've got Kong Skull Island, which was better than it probably had any right to be.
It doesn't need the first hour of the film, but yes, because that's Peter Jackson's way. But yeah, no, it definitely was better than it had any right to be.
Number 3, the Brundlefly from David Cronenberg's The Fly.
Nobody does body horror like Cronenberg. He doesn't. And that film...
And you got Jeff Goldblum.
Made him famous.
Yeah.
Like if you watch any of the films before that, he's just trying to be a normal actor. After that, he is Jeff Goldblum. Mm-hmm. So good. It's one of those that holds up today. I will watch that film around Halloween. I watch The Fly every year. It's so good. It doesn't get worse. Mm-hmm. So good.
Number 2, the King of the Monsters, Godzilla.
Yep. Gojira.
Yep.
From the original. He's another one where he's on my list because I couldn't not write him. But, like, you don't even need to say it. Like, it's so iconic. How many 30-some films in that series at this point?
Oh, yeah, he's like the biggest, like, Guinness has him as like the biggest franchise of all time.
Yeah, like, take that, Marvel.
Yeah.
But, like, it's just one of those things where it's just like, he is so iconic. Like, I remember my nephew going, like, it was hard. I had to explain to my 5-year-old nephew that Godzilla didn't actually exist. Because he had, there was a cartoon show for a while, movies.
I remember Marvel Comics did a series where it was the Avengers fought Godzilla.
Yeah, I don't think they won.
No. And last but not least, the monster, Frankenstein's monster, portrayed by Boris Karloff. I do have to raise an issue. The picture in the book is Glenn Strange as Frankenstein's monster, not Boris Karloff.
That is not a good Frankenstein's monster. No, Frankenstein, again, so iconic, I don't even know if you need to say it.
It's like when you think of Frankenstein, you think of that square-headed universal
the
monster.
Bolts, everything, so good. The man-made monster. It's the classic, is you realize that Frankenstein isn't the monster. Dr. Frankenstein is
the monster.
Yes.
Yep.
It's just so iconic. He is the greatest.
All right, moving on to our list. John, you can go ahead and get us started.
Okay. Now, I skew more for creatures.
Yeah.
That's just me on how I do. So you're not going to hear a lot of man per se, but there are some. So with that, actually, it's the werewolves from the film Dog Soldiers, filmed in 2002. I honestly believe this is the best werewolf movie ever made. Now, I am willing to admit it doesn't flush out the werewolf mythos. It does assume you just kind of know what werewolves are, or are accepting of what you are told because you already know it. But it's so good. Set in the Highlands of Scotland, a military unit against werewolves. I don't need to say anymore. It's just good. The look of them is so interesting. They're tall. They're more gaunt than the normal werewolf. It's really, really cool. All right. Number 9, and this is one I'm genuinely surprised isn't on his list. Jaws. The shark in Jaws.
Yep.
It's so, again, another movie I've watched hundreds of times. The scene in the boat where they're singing, talking about the ship, the USS Indianapolis, arguably one of the greatest scenes ever shot on film. It's so good. Every aspect of that film is good. Only how many years? 50 years after it was made, can we look back and go, there are times I can kind of tell a werewolf is just, or the shark is just a robot. Yeah, it's a 50-year-old film. Yeah, I think we're fine.
Yeah.
So, and the crazy part is it was edited down to get to theaters. There are scenes in that movie I have an extended cut where, and I'm not going to go into all the details, but basically it extrapolates on a scene, and there is a lot more going on that we don't see. The psychological terror of the shark is really impactful in those scenes. It was edited down. If you ever get a chance, I highly suggest watching it.
And it's one of those creatures that work best the less you see of it.
Yes, it really worked out that robot kept breaking so they couldn't show it. Spielberg, man, is making the greatest.
He can make a truck scary.
He did make a truck scary. All right, 8. The Crawlers from the film The Descent from 2005. People who basically humanity went out of caves and started living. Some humans stayed in caves and kept evolving cave-like features. People come across them. It doesn't work out well. Such a good underrated film. Every aspect is great, and the crawlers, the creatures are so weird. They're humans with like pale skin. They are blind. They use echolocation. It's great. It's just a great film.
They remind me a lot of Dwemer from Skyrim.
Yes, actually, I've heard before that one of the artists who designed the Dwemer was inspired to some degree by them. Now, I don't know if that's true, but it's interesting.
Yeah.
7, and another one that I'm very surprised wasn't on his list, the Xenomorphs from Alien.
Ooh. H.R. Geiger, just a classic creature.
Oh, so good. Again, like the Gremlins, where they talk about their whole life cycle. Their life cycle is the part about them that makes them more than just big, evil-looking alien space creature things. They have acid for blood. Like, who would have thought of that? That's so good. Such a great film. so iconic that again, it's one of those where I am generally surprised when it's not on someone's list.
Oh yeah, and it's like even then, throughout its different stages, the chest burster.
Yeah, in itself, the chest burster would have been its own movie. You could have done a film where it's just the chest burster. All it does is kill you when it bursts out of your chest and it becomes a chest burster and runs off. That would be its own film. Nope, just one life point in this creature.
Yep.
And then the sequel making it like, oh wait, there's a queen.
Yeah.
So it's so good. All right, number 6, The Blob. Now, I like the 1988 film more than the original because the update in special effects was there.
Yeah.
They're both great, but like just that concept is this giant slime that just consumes everything it comes across, and there's nothing you can do to physically harm it. It doesn't take damage. Like, oh, you love guns? Cool. Ain't gonna help you.
Yeah.
It's so interesting because it's so dangerous because it's so simple. It doesn't need all these flashy things. It's not hiding. It's coming right at you.
And just the shot of the people being dissolved inside of it
God,
is
it's
just
so
horrifying.
good. It's so good. Oh, so good. I might watch that tonight now. I really would. All right, number 5. This has always been a personal favorite of mine, and I don't think it gets nearly enough love. Pumpkinhead. 1988. Such a good year for horror.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic creature. It's a demon or an entity summoned for revenge. It's called Pumpkinhead? To be honest with you, I think that it might have lost people on the name because what's a pumpkin head?
Yeah.
I don't know, but like it's a great film. Lance Henriksen is awesome in it, and the creature is just very xenomorph-esque in its look.
Stan Winston was involved with this.
Stan Winston not only designed, it's the only film Stan Winston directed.
All right.
Yeah, it's so good. Very, very interesting, and it plays with the whole religious angle a bit too, because again, it's a spirit of vengeance. All right, number 4, the Splinter creatures, which are unnamed, in the film Splinter from 2008. It's a very lesser known horror film. You pretty much have to be a diehard horror fan to have heard about it because it just hasn't had a wide release or anything like that. Functionally, what it is it's a parasitic creature that takes the form of spiky growths, and when it pricks you or gets into your bloodstream, it likes heat. That's all it cares about is warmth. Turns out you, as a mammal, produce warmth. So it takes over your whole body. Now the thing is, it is ambient to itself. So it then moves you around. There are scenes in the movie where the person's alive while this is happening. Moves you around searching for more heat. Yes. I don't need to explain anything more than tell you how horrifying this is. The creature, these spiky growths that are like a mold almost, that grow over somebody very rapidly. It's terrifying. The little budget they had, they spent entirely on creature effects. It's just a great film. I highly suggest it, but the creature is terrifyingly simple, and again, somewhat similar to The Blob, terrifyingly effective.
Awesome.
All right, top 3, and all 3 of these are very iconic, I think. Number 3 being the least so is the Graboids from Tremors. Giant underground worms. It's so good.
Yeah.
I remember seeing this as a kid and being like, I had come to the realization that what do you do when you can just solve a monster issue by having a gun?
Yeah.
There's you make the monster big so it doesn't care about guns, but we have big guns, the military and stuff.
Yeah.
So what do you do to make a monster so it can't just get shot? Because I was thinking of what about these movies where it's just, it's a giant killer bear in the woods. I'm like, okay, people
grizzly?
kill,
Yeah.
people kill bears all the time. How is this a danger? And then this movie comes around. It's like, because it's about to get you. Well, how is it about to get me? I can't see it. It's in the middle of the desert. No one's got. Because it's in the ground. What? It makes being outside dangerous, which is amazing. And I've mentioned this in other films. Matter of fact, I begin to think this. I think Tremors is in almost all of my lists. I love the duo in the film. I love the special effects. I love the pacing. I love every aspect of it. The monster, the Graboid itself, when it finally bursts, is this giant earthworm-looking thing with this, bone structure on its head to get through the ground, and it opens its maw and has the tongue things that come out. That is great design, because if it was just this giant worm that burst from the ground and ate you, okay, that's cool and all. But to have these serpentine-like tongues that come out is great. And even the cover, which I feel like a lot of horror movies covers blow everything away with the monster's on the cover, you see everything. if you look at a Tremors cover where they're standing on the ground and they're kind of looking like an earthquake, and up comes under the ground is just one of the tongues. You don't see what's really coming, so it throws you off. You don't know what's going on, and it plays into the film so greatly.
Oh yeah.
All right, number 2, because it has to be on my list, Godzilla. I actually like Godzilla from 1984. Now, Godzilla has gone through, for those who don't know, several redesigns.
Yeah.
I actually am a fan of later stages of Godzilla. In some steins, he's darker, he's almost black, and he has white eyes. I'm not going to get into the whole backstory of why that is. But I've always been a fan of, like, a really aggressive-looking Godzilla. And I love the original Gojira, but after that, the suit ended up looking a little cross-eyed. The terminology people use is derpy. Like, because it's just how it goes, and, like, it doesn't work all the time to possess that scare, but, like, the film is really good at presenting Godzilla as an actual threat to people. Like, he's going to wreck the whole town or city. He's going to kill a lot of people. Destruction, giant threats of destruction. So he's just so good because he, as I just mentioned, how are we going to kill him? Oh, everyone has guns. Well, it don't matter. He's too big.
Yep.
The iconic kaiju.
Absolutely.
More so than King Kong, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Which is why he's not on the King Kong isn't on the list. I figure I only needed King Kong or Godzilla, and I had to go with my gut. Had to go with Godzilla. And number 1, my favorite monster of all time, The Thing, from John Carpenter's The Thing. It's a remake, and it's the greatest remake of all time.
Yep.
It takes the concept that was presented in the first movie, takes the concept that was in the book, and just runs wild with it, with all the abilities that they had at the time, bought in special effects and everything, and it's amazing. You can go online right now and find hundreds of YouTube videos of people trying to break down the film and realize, okay, who's it now, and who's infected and who's not, and who they say they are, and all this. And it's amazing. It's a great character study. I've actually heard it sometimes is presented in film class as a way to teach, like, what to tell your audience and what not to tell your audience. Yeah. It's so good. It's so good. I have heard of films being basically remakes of it that in no way are connected to it. Like, a lot of people don't know this, but Quentin Tarantino's, not last film because he just released
Hateful
one.
Eight.
But The Hateful Eight is an actual remake of John Carpenter's The Thing. Now, you have to stop and think about it for a bit, because they're not sure who everyone is. But
Yeah.
Carpenter actually had on set the movie to make sure he wasn't stealing scenes directly.
Yeah.
Like, he admitted, this is a remake of The Thing. So it's just, let's take out the horror element and just put in drama and suspense.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Excellent. Yeah, some of your choices may or may not appear on my list. All right, for my top 10 list, number 10, I had Marie from Innocent Blood, the French vampire, but she's a bit more of an anti-hero.
Yeah.
Killing off the mafia guys, but I still like the character.
Okay.
Let's see, number 9, Worm Eye from Lucio Fulci's Zombie. Brief screen time, but he's the cover zombie. He's the one you see on the poster, and it's just one of those really awesome zombie designs.
Yeah,
it's like,
for the longest time, I actually thought they had hired a man who was missing an eye for the scene, but I was informed that is incorrect. It was just an actor with a really good prosthetic.
Yep, and the use of potter's clay, which is actually pretty ingenious.
Yes, very, very so.
Number 8, The Blind Dead from the Blind Dead series. These zombie / vampire Templars, they hunt by sound. Numbers are a factor for this creature as well, just because so many of them can swarm you in such a short amount of time.
Yeah.
And just seeing them on horseback, it's like, okay, Peter Jackson clearly saw them and used them for, like, the Nazgul for Lord of the Rings.
I will say it was pretty clear after seeing it that they had to be inspired by. I'm not as a giant fan of the Blind Dead series. That Italian horror genre where it's just, why is it evil? Because it is, and I said so, just to deal with it.
Yeah.
Well, what's it going to do? Whatever it wants, it's evil, to get over it. I was not always really into, personally. I respect what it did and has great atmosphere. But yeah, like, I definitely think you're right, though. They nailed the Nazgul are definitely inspired by them.
All right, my number 7, The Thing from John Carpenter's The Thing. Just the stuff of nightmares, just all these different animals and creatures just crushed. It's Lovecraftian in its essence, pretty much.
You very much Lovecraftian, yes.
Number 6, The Mummy from the 1959 Hammer film starring Christopher Lee.
Yes.
Just an unstoppable force. It was the Terminator of its time.
Yeah, 100%. That scene, actually, a lot of people don't know it. The scene, there's a scene in the film where he busts through a giant pane of glass to come at, and it might surprise you, Peter Cushing's in this movie. But he busts through the glass because he's commanded to get Peter Cushing's character. And they didn't replace the glass with sugar glass.
It was real glass.
Which they were told they did. The crew just didn't get around to doing it. So Christopher Lee, not to be in any way stopped by a little thing like a giant plate glass window possibly killing him, just casually ran through it like he walks through it like always. Because it's funny to me, because when I heard that story, I'm like, wait, he's got his arm out. Wouldn't he have just hit the glass, realized it's not breaking? Nope, didn't want to throw a set, broke it anyway. So good.
Christopher Lee is hardcore as hell, man.
Yes. Chuck Norris checks his bed under night for Christopher Lee. That's the joke.
Number 5, the Deadites from the Evil Dead series.
Yeah.
They're basically the trolls of the horror world, pretty much.
They really are.
Yeah, it's like as soon as you're about to kill one of them, they revert the person back to normal, and you're like, okay, now can I kill you now, or can I not kill you now?
Yeah, they're so fun. Looking at it, they were the Deadpool-esque character, not breaking the fourth wall, but kind of their day. And looking back, I have no idea why more films haven't used them, because they're the best version of demonic zombies ever.
And let's see, number 4, The Infected from 28 Days Later. Now, technically not the first running zombies, but we're not going to get into that argument. But for me, probably some of the scariest.
Oh yeah, no, the shot in the arm the zombies needed was definitely to make them run, because that was the joke up until a lot of people don't realize, before that giant wave of zombie films that we couldn't get away from in the early 2000s, was zombies, if they were in a movie, they were a joke. People would like push them over and move on with their day. It wasn't anything. Let's have them run and be super aggressive. Oh, that's a whole different issue.
Yep. And the fact that these zombies work actually just like a living virus, where they will spew their blood bile at you to infect you, and it's like 30 seconds, and then you're one of them.
Yep. Being around them is dangerous.
Number 3, iconic, Frankenstein's monster. It's just whenever you think of Frankenstein, you always think of the Universal character by Boris Karloff.
100%.
Number 2, Godzilla. I mean, why not?
Of course.
King of the monsters for a reason.
Exactly.
And number 1, The Invisible Man, voiced by Claude Rains in the 1933 film The Invisible Man. Just my favorite Universal monster.
Yeah, like I mine's still gonna always be Frankenstein, but I definitely think the Invisible Man, he brought a lot of different elements to the table, the ones that a lot of people didn't see, Perry on there, but see before that. And I think that he doesn't get nearly enough credit for, because he's also at the very end of
he was one of the last ones before the creature from the Black Lagoon.
And creature only came later because there was no way to do the effects for the creature up until that point, because half the time it's a guy
underwater,
actually underwater. The suit would have killed him if it wasn't. But no, the effects they did for that were revolutionary at the time.
Yeah, it was the way they did it is they had black velvet as a backdrop, the guy in costume, and then whatever parts they wanted invisible, they put in black velvet. So that it's basically blue screen before its time.
Yeah, and it still looks good today.
Yeah, it looks really good today compared to CGI and whatnot.
Yeah, and that film's really old. So.
All right, so those are our top 10s for this episode of The Three Tenors. Let us know who your favorite monsters are, because there's no shortage of options here.
Yeah, politicians aside, let's just keep it film monsters.
And so on that note, we're going to end this episode of The Three Tenors. This is Mackenzie Lambert.
And John Cleveland.
All right, thank you for listening.
Bye.
Bye.